Hello, guys. My name is Desmond, and I welcome you to my lesson for today, where we'll be looking at your mathematics. So, ladies and gentlemen, please do allow me to say it is very much important that I say it is very, very much important because what I'm about to say it's massively important. So, ladies and gentlemen, a day without learning something new, it's a day wasted. By so saying, Hamisa, please do make sure that by the end of each and every lesson that I conduct, you learn something new. Okay, so guys, in today's lesson, we'll be looking at mathematics. As I've indicated, what exactly is math? So I've got this that I've sent. I think it was sent in the library. If not, sent in this same group. But otherwise, if not, you are welcome to take some notes as I explain. Okay, so good people, I want you guys to fully understand exactly what is meant by maths. You will realize that in mathematics, we are only dealing with only three things. What are those? Guys, we talk about the signs, the numbers, and the letters. It's only three things that we look at when we are dealing with mathematics. What are the signs? You do know very well that on your calculator, you have a positive sign, a negative sign or a minus sign, multiplication, division. You can also have a sign called less than, greater than, or less than or is equals to, greater than or it's equals to. You can also add some brackets. There are many more signs that we'll be dealing with as we focus on mathematics. But most importantly, for now, let's talk about those. So this is the first part of mathematics. Number two, we look at the numbers. I'm telling you guys, as far as I know, in the world, we only have 10 numbers. Only 10 numbers. What are those? We start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 being the last number. Hamisa, you do remember very well that I did explain this sometime last year. I said it's only these numbers that we are having. Someone is wondering, what about 110? What about 17? What about 94? Good people, those numbers are the combination of these 10 numbers. 10 is the combination of 1 and 0. 17 is the combination of 1 and 17. So in mathematics, whenever you deal with a bigger number, just know that is the combination of these 10 numbers. So you will realize as we go deep that mathematics is actually the combination of these three things. So since we have the combination of 1 and 0, we can still add or attach a sign to that number. For example, the moment you have negative, can you see? It is the combination of the sign and numbers. So we call this negative 10. But if it's just 10, we do know very well that there is an invisible positive over there, meaning this is positive 10. So I'll leave it there for now. So let's talk about the letters. As far as I know, in mathematics, especially in high school, we are only focusing on letter A all the way up to letter Z. It doesn't matter whether it's capital letters or if it's small letters. But most importantly, in mathematics, you are focusing on letters from letter A all the way up to letter Z. Okay. Before I go deep, do not worry that much. I do welcome all the new learners. So this is how it works. In case if you've got a question, I will give you guys an opportunity to ask, and what you do is just to mention your name. If you're asking for the first time, you mention your name, you will be recognized and be given an opportunity to ask a question, and from there we will respond accordingly. But for now, what I want to do is just to take you through a presentation where I explain to you exactly what mathematics is. From there, as we go deeper, we will have a look at exam type of questions. That's where I'll be taking you through an interpretation of the questions. So the reason why most of you guys fail or get confused when you're dealing with mathematics, it's because you do not understand the types of problems that you are dealing with. I can tell you now, Busisiwa, I can tell you now that for you to come up with the best solution, that's if you fully understand the problem. You can also ask your parents about this. There's no way you can provide the best solution to a problem that you do not understand. That is why it is very, 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 very much important that you fully understand the type of a problem that you are dealing with. Once you understand the problem, you know exactly what to solve. So in most cases, all of you guys, not necessarily all, but most of you, you are very much obsessed with trying to solve the maths problems, not understanding the type of a maths problem that you are dealing with. So now I hope all of you guys do understand what I was explaining over there. So this is the first part of the lesson that I wanted you guys to be aware of. Before I move on to the next part, anyone who's got a question in relation to what I've explained over there, does it make sense to everyone what I've just explained?
Yes, sir.
Last one to confirm.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Remember, guys, just in case if you are not aware, if you want to communicate, all that you need to do is just to click on a button on your screen. There should be a button where you can unmute your mic and make a comment. Okay, so now this is what I'm going to be explaining. Good people, in mathematics, we normally deal with these four things. What are those? Equations, expressions, inequalities, and exponents, where you apply the laws of exponents. Someone please remember to mute your mic. Another thing, if you forget to mute your mic and we get disturbed by the background noise, I am able to mute your mic from my side. And if I do that, the unfortunate part is that you won't be able to communicate until the end of the lesson. So please make sure that at all times you remember to mute your mic. Okay, before I take you guys through all of this, which are the types of math problems that we'll be dealing with, let me talk about the following. These are the ways that we'll be talking about from time to time, and it is very much important that you guys understand what these ways mean. Coefficient. I'm pretty much sure that most of you guys hear the word coefficient. What exactly is coefficient? Let's say, for example, you've got 2x, let's say plus 7, it's equals to 10 as an example. Okay, so a coefficient, it refers to that number which is attached to a letter. So can you see this alone? It has the sign, the number, and the letter. What is the sign of that term? It's an invisible positive. What is the number? The number is 2. Letter is letter X. So can you see? This is a term. We also have that term. What is the sign of that term? Is positive. That one is visible. The number there is 7. So here, because we do not have a letter, that means there is no coefficient. It is just a number. What do we call that number? We call it a constant. So let me add another word there to say a constant, meaning this one being positive 10, it is called a constant. I hope you guys do understand that very well. Okay, so since we have noticed that a number attached to a letter, it is called a coefficient. What about a letter? Remember, when I say a number attached to a letter, it could be negative 3b. Can you see? This is a letter and this is a number. So we call that a coefficient. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen, that you pay full attention to all the details. So the letter itself, mathematically, we do not just say it's a letter, but we call it a variable. So I'll just add it there to say we call it a variable. So good people, make sure that when you open at your schools, you no longer say letter X, letter B, but you call it a variable. Very, very much. When you call it a variable, just look at your teacher in the eyes. You will see he will be smiling. So now, the other thing that you need to be aware of is the word power or exponent. Power or exponent. Good people, let me remind you that this lesson is being recorded. So just in case if you are not able to note down everything, it will be posted on my YouTube channel and I will send a link for all of you guys to catch up. So do not worry that much in case if you are not able to write down everything, but just know that the lesson is being recorded and it will be posted on my YouTube channel. Okay. So power or exponent. For example, if you have, let's see, we have Bokang attending today's lesson. No, I've used a B. Let me check. We have Hamisa. Okay. If we have, let's say 13H to the power C. Guys, this is a maths type of a thing. Why am I saying that? It's because it has a sign, a number, and a letter. What is the sign for that? Can you see? We've got a sign of an invisible positive, the coefficient being 13. This is the base being the variable because it is a letter. We also have a variable. So that variable written in that position, it's what we call the power of that. Meaning in maths, we actually have the base and the power or exponent. So this is the format of a term. Let's say, for example, if you have 2x squared, can you see? This is the coefficient, this is the base being the variable, and this is the power. Remember, guys, at all the times, all the numbers have the signs. So if a sign it is not written there, just know it's an invisible positive sign. Similarly, there, if you do not have a negative sign, just know it's an invisible positive. So there are some invisible things. Normally, we have invisible positive and invisible 1. For example, if you just have x minus 2 is equals to 7. Here we have things which are invisible. You have invisible positive, you have invisible 1, you also have invisible power of 1. So when you see X or letter Y or whatever letter, just know that they are invisible things. Unless if you have negative P, then you know you have a negative sign, you have invisible 1, you have P, you have invisible 1 over there. The other thing that I want you guys to be aware of is the word called formula. So formula, it's pretty much straightforward. Let's say, for example, when we'll be dealing with financial maths, I think what are we having? We have, let me not do that one, but do the common one and say A is equals to P into 1, either plus or minus, let's say I to the exponent n. This thing, Bantu Bagiti, it's what we call a formula. What do we use a formula for? Normally, when you use a formula, that's if you are given the values of all the variables excluding just one variable. For example, the moment you apply a certain formula, of which I will take you through a formula sheet, that's if you are given, for example, n, you are given I, maybe you are given A. That means you must be looking for P. Or otherwise, you are given everything, but A is what you are not given. So a formula is just what you are given on the formula sheet, and you plug all the values that you are given to calculate the unknown. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen. So the last thing, very, very much important that I explain this one, a term. A term. So what exactly is a term? Let me explain this one this way. Once you understand and be able to interpret a term, I'm telling you guys, you will never go wrong. Let's see. A term, it has got a sign. For those of you guys who are writing notes, a term has a sign followed by a coefficient or a number. Let me just say either a number or coefficient, whichever word that you use, it's fine. But to impress your teacher, do not say a number, but a coefficient, followed by a letter. Followed by a letter. Remember, if you want to impress your teacher, just say a variable. I hope it now makes sense. So, lastly, we have a power. This is the standard format of representing a term. A power. Otherwise, if you like, you can say exponent. It doesn't really matter that much. But just be aware that when we talk about a coefficient, a variable, a power, or exponent, we refer to those. Now, how do we interpret a term? I'm going to interpret just a few, and if there's one who would like to try, I'll give you guys an opportunity to interpret a term for me. So let's say we have 2x squared plus y is equals to, let me say, 0. I'm going to interpret the terms over there. Most importantly, how do you notice a term? Is all of this a term, or is only that a term? A very good question may be asked. And an answer to that question is that a term is separated by a sign of a plus or a minus. Zoleka, I'm not sure if you fully understand exactly what I mean by that. Remember, you have an invisible positive but negative or minus, it's always visible. So what do I mean when I say a term is separated by a sign of a plus or a minus? Can you see? Between that and that, you've got a term. We've got a sign of a positive, meaning the whole of this, it's a term. The whole of that, it's a term. So here, you do not have a sign of a positive or a negative that separates two terms. You only have a zero, meaning this alone is a term. So that means on this equation, we have 1, 2, 3 terms. 2 terms on the left side, 1 term on the right side. So now I'm going to interpret the terms. This is how it goes. I'm telling you guys, on the second part of this lesson, you will fully understand why it is very much important to understand how to interpret a term. Good people, why am I teaching you on how to interpret a term? It is because when you are given a mathematical problem, you should be able to interpret it in that way. You will be in a good position to be able to attack that particular question strategically. Most importantly, I am going to give you all the necessary strategies that you need to apply when dealing with any type of a maths problem. Okay, so let's see. This is a term because they are separated by a sign. Now, when you interpret a term, think of the sign, number, letter, and a power. Okay, now I'm starting. What is the sign of my first term? The sign is an invisible positive. What is the number or the coefficient? It is 2. What is the letter or variable? Is x. Good people, this x written in that way, it is the same as that x that you find from your alphabet, from A all the way up to Z. Maybe let me say this so that it makes sense. When you guys are in high school, we teach you a X and Y. Then, when you get to varsity, we introduce Z. So that is why in most cases you are dealing with X, because it's X, Y, and lastly Z. So in high school, we focus on these 2 letters. Then when you get to varsity, we focus on Z. That is why you will find your teacher talking about something called 2D or 2 dimension. When you get to varsity, we focus on 3 dimensions. Let me not go deep into that, but just keep it to your standard. I'm pretty much sure that the teachers who are attending my lessons, they do understand very well what I'm talking about. Okay, so now the letter is X, as I've explained. What about the power or the exponent? It is an invisible positive 2. So that's how I've interpreted that term. Let me now interpret this term. What is the sign? The sign is positive. What is the number or a coefficient? It's an invisible 1. Guys, at all times in mathematics, you don't have P, but we have 1P, but the 1 is invisible. Only if it's more than 1, maybe, or it's less than 1, something like half P, then we know it's half P. In maths, we don't just have a letter being, let's say, T. Never. It is 1T, but the 1 may not be written, meaning there is an invisible positive 1 over there. So I'm just not sure of how to explain this in English, but I'll try in multiple languages. My learners do know very well that I do speak all the languages, but you might find it strange when I speak other. Okay, Kuli Kuli. I'm pretty much sure that that side of Rosalind, if maybe let me keep it simple. in Sepedi, which is my language. If ke a shopong and I come across one goat, one put, and they say, what did you come across along your way to the shop? I won't say I came across one goat. I will just say goat. But if it's many, I would say 2 goats, 3 goats, or whatever number of the goats. So that is why in maths it is not necessary to say 1x. You just say x. Only if it's many, you can say 7x. Angazi ukuthi lento le ngizoyichaza kanjani ngesizulu kodwa awuthi ngiyizame. So like, I'm not sure if you are Zulu, but ngizoyizama ngesiZulu. Bengithi mase bakuthuma esitolweni bathi hamba uyothenga isinkwa or impuphu, bese uhlangana nembuzi. Mase imbuzi eyodwa, uhlangana nembuzi eyodwa, uyabuya bathi uhlangane nembuzi zinganganani. Angeke uthi embuzi eyodwa, or it's not necessary to say embuzi eyodwa. Uzothi ngihlangane nembuzi, kodwa maziziningi uzothi ngihlangane nezimbuzi ezimbili. Hey, someone who's Zulu, did I make sense there? Let me just check. Pindi, are you not Zulu? Hey,
Yeah, you made sense.
No, sir.
I lost confidence in myself.
Alright.
Hey,
I understand.
ngizamile ne Hamisa. Ngiyathemba ukuthi ngizamile bonke abantu bayizwile. So that is why I'm saying mathematically it is not necessary to write p. To write 1p. You just write p, but if it's many, it's 2p. That is why there you have 2x, because it's many of those. Here it was 1y, no need to write y, but you just write letter y. So now I'm going to give you an opportunity to interpret this one for me. I won't choose those who have been attending my lessons since 2022, but I will just choose from the new ones. Let me say we have negative, let's see, we have Pindile on the line, Pindi, plus, let me say, let's see, we have Zoleka. Let's say 4z is equals to who else is on the line? We have Tabi. So I'm going to say t squared. Okay. Anyone who'd like to give it a try? Remember, guys, in these instances where I'm giving you guys an opportunity to participate, you do not unmute your mic and start delivering a prayer. But what you do, you unmute your mic, you mention your name, and I'm going to mention your name. Whoever that I mentioned your name, it means honorable member, you are recognized, you can give it a try. So, guys, who wants to give it a try? You just interpret it by explaining how many terms we are having, and you interpret each term just like I did. Anyone who would like to give it a try?
Kolahano.
Okay, Kuli, it's fine. Go for it.
So we have, with the first term, we have a negative sign and variable p. And then with the second term, we have a positive sign with a coefficient 4 and variable z. And then an equal sign. And then with the last term, we have variable t to the exponent 2.
Okay, 100%. So I'm just going to touch on what you missed. Okay, so the reason why I wrote that Kuli, it's because I wanted you to go through everything, meaning you start with the sign. So that means this is a term separated by a sign. There is a term, there is a term. So you've got a sign being a negative sign. You've got a number which is an invisible one. So that means this negative is not negative for P, but it's negative for a number, meaning these signs are attached to numbers. Then numbers are attached to letters. So every time when you see a negative or a positive, just know it is not a sign for a letter, but it is a sign for the number. So that means we have the sign being negative, a coefficient being an invisible one, letter being that. We also have a power here, kuli, it's an invisible positive one. So here we have a sign being positive, a number or coefficient being 4, the letter being Z, power being invisible positive 1. Here we also have the same sign being invisible positive, number being 1, letter being T, power being visible positive 2. It's visible because we can see that it is that. So good people, that's all that I wanted you guys to be aware of regarding all of that. I'm now moving on to the next part of our lesson for today, which is the most important part of this lesson. But before I do that, anyone who's got a question in relation to all that I've explained, or does it make sense to everyone?
Makes sense.
Last one to confirm.
Makes sense. You understand.
Okay. I think I'm going to remove everything here. Remember, guys, this lesson is being recorded. Whatever that you couldn't note down, you can still do that when you catch up. Okay, so very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen. This is what I want you guys to fully understand. We do not force you to understand, but understanding comes through you paying full attention. So in mathematics, good people, nothing is difficult. It all depends on how things were explained to you. Let me tell you now that this lesson that I'm conducting today, Zoleka, you will never anywhere in the country or in the world find a lesson similar to this one, because this is actually a very short version of an interpretation or an explanation of exactly what mathematics is. For me to smell distinctions, that was after I understood all that I summarized in this lesson. Because with you not understanding everything there, if a question comes and it comes differently, it might confuse you. But if you know all of this, you firstly interpret a math problem. From there, you know in which or under which category it falls. Then you'll be able to know how to deal with that particular math problem. Okay, so firstly, I want to talk about an equation. From time to time, you read from question papers a question saying whatever an equation. Whatever an equation. What exactly is an equation? Good people, I'm not expecting any of you to give a response to that question. In today's lesson, I'm going to explain exactly what an equation is. On upcoming lessons, I might give you guys an opportunity to just explain what I'm going to explain now. So it's easy to know what an equation is. An equation is any math problem that has an equal sign. Equation, equal sign. Equation, equal sign. Equation, equal sign. Very, very much important. Okay, so let's say you are given 2x plus 4, which is equals to 8. What type of a math problem is that? It's either it is an equation, an expression, an inequality, or exponential problem which requires you to apply the laws of exponents. So I'm going to explain each of these. Once you know 4 of these, I'm telling you guys, I am telling you that compilation of question paper, what is it? There's a compilation of question papers that I sent in the group. It's a lot of questions from past question papers. I'm telling you guys, you might not believe it, but if you can fully understand what I'm going to explain regarding all of that, you will fully understand when I solve those problems. And if you dedicate yourself enough time to practice on your own, you will easily solve those problems. Okay, what type of a math problem is that? Good people, this is an equation. Why am I saying it's an equation? Because I see an equal sign. Okay, what do you do when you have an equation? Good people, you solve. Kuli kuli, I'm pretty much sure that you are aware of what I'm talking about there. So let's give our new learners an opportunity to understand exactly what we mean by an equation. An equation is a math problem that has an equal sign. What do you do when you have an equation? Good people, you solve. Here comes a question. Hamisa might ask a very good question and say, what exactly are we solving? Because in mathematics, it's in most cases where they say solve that, solve that, solve that, solve that, solve that, solve that, as if it's our problem. Guess what? We will give you a problem and we will expect you to solve it. What exactly are we solving, or what does it mean mathematically when you solve? Bantu bakithi. If you remember, I did explain that in mathematics we've got signs, numbers, and letters. When you solve, every time, always, it doesn't matter whether you are in primary, high school, varsity, or wherever, when you solve for the unknown. What is the unknown? The unknown is represented by a letter, which could be any letter from A up to Z. That's what we solve. Here, what letter are we having? We have letter X. Okay, now that we have letter X, what does it mean when we solve? We actually want to know, kahle, what is the number represented by that letter X? That is why when you solve a math problem, in the end, you end up saying that unknown being letter X is equals to whatever, the whatever being a number. So it's more like when you solve in maths, you want to convert a letter into a number. We just want to know what is the number of that letter. Let me keep it simple so that everyone understands. 2 plus, my name is Desmond, I will use letter D. 2 plus D is equals to 4. So when they say solve, why would they say solve? It's because this is an equation. How do you know it's an equation? Because you see an equal sign. So it's more like they're saying, what number can you say 2 plus that number and it gives you 4. Can someone tell what is that number that is represented by letter D, of which when you say 2 plus that number, it will be equals to 4? Pindi, I noticed you unmuted your mic, but I couldn't get the answer.
2.
Do you guys agree with that number being 2?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that is correct. So remember, in maths, the reason why they say if you just give a final answer, you'll get it wrong, it's because they want you to follow mathematical procedure. So that means even though if you know that the unknown being letter D is actually 2, you need to mathematically represent that. So this is what I always say. In maths, we always want to have letters on the left and we equate to numbers on the right. This is what we all try to achieve in maths, because you want to know this letter is actually this number. What does it mean, Tabi? It means you must move all the numbers to the right and move all the
Yes.
letters to the left. Meaning you have letter D, of which you write it on the left, then you move everything to the right. So that's what they mean when they say you transpose. Can you guys see? You've got an invisible positive there. When you transpose, it changes the sign, it becomes a negative, or it becomes an opposite sign. Then you can say it's 2. Therefore, D is equals to 2. So can you guys see the unknown, which is letter D, it is now known. And the known value, it is that invisible positive 2. I hope that makes sense. So this was just an easy example that I had to explain to you guys. It gets a bit more tricky with exam type of questions. So let me now move on to the next part, being an expression. But before I move on to that one, I'm not sure if there's anyone who's been confused by what I've explained regarding an equation. Remember, in case if you've got no questions at the moment, do not worry that much. As we do more and more lessons, you will realize that you might be having some more questions, of which you will be given an opportunity to ask those questions. Carol, remember to mute your mic. There should be a button on your screen which says mute. So make sure that at all the times your mic remains muted. So an expression. Do you guys allow me to move on to an expression?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Carol, remember to mute your mic, Ntombo. If I mute it from my side, you won't be able to speak until the end of the lesson. So just look on your screen. There should be a button which says mute. Okay, number 2. Let's talk about an expression. An expression. What is an expression? An expression is just a math problem that doesn't have an equal sign. For example, if you are given 2p minus 7 plus 17, let's say, okay, let me say 17p minus y. So this is what you are given. The question is, what type of a math problem is that? Is it an equation? No, it cannot be an equation. Why? Because I don't see an equal sign. That means here we are not going to solve, because this is not an equation. But If it's not equation impose, then what is it? It is an expression. What do we do when we have an expression? Good people, we simplify. That is why you will be given a question which says, given an expression, or they say, simplify the following expression. In short, what does it mean when they say simplify? Bantu bakithi, they are just saying rewrite this long thing into its simplest form. How do you do that? Okay, let's check. We have 2 bodies there. Do we have other bodies? Let's see. Oh, yes, we have 17 bodies there. Meaning we have 2 bodies plus 17 bodies, 17, 18, 9. So that means we have 19 bodies. Let's see. Do we have, okay, there's Y for yogurt. Do we have another yogurt? No, we don't have another yogurt. So we just write it as it is, as negative yogurt. Let's see. We have a number there. Do we have any other numbers? No, we don't. Then we just write it as negative 7. So can you see? This is the final answer of that expression. So you are given an expression in a complicated form, and you need to rewrite it in its simplest form. It's more like you're given 2 plus 8 plus 1 plus 3. Is this an equation or an expression? Let's see. I don't see an equal sign, meaning it's an expression. What does it mean? It means I must simplify. Then let's see. Do I have letters? No, I only have numbers, meaning I can just add everything. So that plus that is 10, 11, 12, 13, meaning this is actually a 14. So can you see? You have rewritten that complicated or lengthy expression into its simplest form. That is all that you need to be aware regarding an expression. Lebandla la kaNkulunkulu, iyazwakala lento le, or are you guys being confused that side? Honorable members, does it make sense to everyone what I'm explaining there?
Yes, sir, it makes sense.
Yeah. So good.
So far, so good. Okay, so now I'm going to explain exactly what is meant by inequalities. What is meant by inequalities? Remember, guys, make sure to have your mics muted. Only unmute if you respond to a question. Okay, inequalities. Very simple. How do you notice an inequality? Whatever math problem that you are given, the moment you see that this is less than, this is greater than, when it has that thing, we call it less than or is equals to. This is greater than or is equals to. Where does the or is equals to come from? So remember, it's either you have is equals to. This is an is equals to, but they removed that top part of an is equals to and they used the less than sign. If you had an is equals to, they removed that and put a greater than there. Meaning, this is called greater than or is equals to, this is called less than or is equals to. I know very well that most of you guys get confused by these signs, but this is how I cramped it. Myself, Pindi, I'm right-handed. I'm pretty much sure that you are also right-handed. Katleo, with your right hand, if you do that, or if you do like this with your right hand, also, if you do like that with your left hand, do you notice that this shape with your right hand, it looks like that one, and your right hand is greater in energy. So obviously, if you are right-handed, your right hand has greater energy and your left hand, which is like that, it has less energy. So that's how I've always remembered that. This sign, it refers to less than, because it looks like my left hand side, which is less in energy, that one being greater than. I hope it all makes sense to everyone. So that's another way in which you can cram those in case if you are getting confused. So the moment you see this, then you know you are dealing with an inequality. Okay, let's say for example 2x squared minus 4 may be greater than 0. What type of a math problem is that? Is it an equation? Is it an expression? Is it an inequality? I don't see an equal sign. It doesn't matter whether it's greater than or is equals to, if it's less than or is equals to, greater than or less than. As long as you see one of these, you know it's an inequality. So already I'm seeing one of those. That means it is not an equation, it is not an expression, but it is an inequality. Which means, Bantu Bakiti, when you are dealing with these types of problems, you will be solving them differently, which is something that I'm going to be teaching you on our upcoming lessons. That is why it is very much important that you do not miss any of my lessons, because a day without learning something new, it's a day wasted. By so saying, Katlego, please, Pindi, please, 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 Zaza, please do make sure that by the end of each and every lesson that I conduct, you learn something new. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen, over there. The last one being exponents. I'm going to quickly explain the types of exponential problems. Do you guys allow me to move on to this one? Which means, did you fully understand what I've explained with those three?
Yes, of course. Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. Exponents. Exponent. Okay, how do I notice I'm now dealing with an exponent? That's if, in most cases, if you have the letter in the position of the power, you know you are dealing with exponents. I'll keep it simple and say 2 to the exponent x is equals to 4. X squared, it's equals to 4. Notice the difference between these two problems. Okay, when it comes to exponents, you might have a combination of those, that or that. An expression is easy to notice because there's no equal sign. So can you guys see that the base is the number, but the exponent, it is the letter? That's what I meant when I was saying when the letter is in the position of the power, it is an exponent. But this one, can you see the base, it is the letter, and then the power, it is a number. So this is the one which is an exponent math problem. This one, it is just an equation which has a type of an equation. I will explain the types of equations that we normally have. That's when we go deeper. But wait, good people, it's as simple as that. When you have the letter in the position of the power, that's when you are dealing with an exponent, which means you need to apply the laws of exponents. Before you guys open at your schools, I'm going to take you through a lesson where I focus on the laws of exponents and we focus on the questions related to exponents. So it is very much important, good people, that you are aware and you notice the type of a math problem that you are dealing with. I'm not sure if what I've explained makes sense to everyone. Can I just get an indication from Lebandla la kaNkulunkulu if yonke into iyazwakala? Are you guys able to notice the difference between those two?
May you please solve an inequality?
Someone is saying something. Did honorable member say, can I solve there?
May you please solve an inequality?
Okay, there's a request there which says, can I please solve an inequality? Okay, so remember, honorable member, for today's lesson, we just focus on an introduction. So I'm pretty much sure that tomorrow I will show you guys how to solve all those types of problems. So I'm going to start with an equation, move on to an expression, do an inequality, and also include exponential problems. So if I focus on an inequality, I might get confused because before I do lessons, I prepare for my lessons. Okay, honorable member, thanks very much for making that comment because I just remembered something. So what I'm going to be saying, it's not meant, it's not a comment directed to learners. To all the teachers, parents, and tutors attending my lesson, I want to tell you guys that it's not only about what the child or the learner requests. It's all about what's good for them. For example, honorable member requested that I solve an inequality. But the question is, are they in the right position to learn how to solve inequalities? According to me, not yet. Why? Because I haven't explained to them all that they need to know. So all the parents, please be aware that your child might be saying, I'm struggling with maths and I'm struggling with functions. If you come to me and say, I'm struggling with maths and I'm struggling with functions, I'm not going to start teaching you the functions, but I'm going to firstly take you through this lesson because the reason why you do not understand the functions is because your foundations, the basics that you should be knowing, probably you do not fully understand those. But I'm telling you guys, everything has the starting point. The reason why you are all over, you do not understand what you are doing, you end up losing hope, you end up giving up along the way. It's because you are solving complicated problems. You haven't started from the starting point. I'm not sure if you guys understand this. It's more like someone tried to do a foundation. Along the way, they gave up. Someone came and just saw a foundation that they do not know what's under that foundation, and they started building the walls. And then from there, for some reason, they gave up, they dropped out. And then someone with a good budget, they came and did the roofing on a poor structure with poor foundation. So when you come to me and say my structure is collapsing or it's bending, I won't only focus on the roof, but this is where I'm going to start. From there, I'm going to move on the structure itself. And finally, you will fully understand what needs to be done at the roof. So just be careful, teachers, parents, and tutors. It's not at all the times where when the learner says, I'm struggling with financial maths, you just teach them financial. Start where the starting point is. Honorable member, thanks very much for making that request. I notice we have gone for an hour, but I wish to complete this lesson. So please do allow me to just quickly wrap up our lesson for today. I think for now, let me quickly indicate to you those 2 points, and then from there, I'm going to quickly browse through that compilation that was sent in the group. Okay, I've spoken about equations. A last comment, honorable member, regarding inequalities, do not worry, you will be covered. But for now, allow me to just take you through this presentation. Okay, equations or inequalities. You guys need to be aware of something. You need to be aware that we have what we call linear. I'm sure you're not hearing this word for the first time. We also have quadratic. What are these two things, and how do you notice those? A linear equation or linear inequality, it's an equation where the letter is to the power of invisible 1. If you are given 2p minus 1 is equals to 7, this is an equation, but what type of an equation is it? Is it a linear or is it a quadratic? So I'm saying it is a linear. Why? Because the letter from A up to Z, it is to the power of 1. Do we have a letter on that equation? Yes. What is the letter? It's letter P. What is the power of that letter? Can you see? It's an invisible 1, meaning this is a linear equation. What does it mean if it's a linear equation? It means finally you are only going to have one answer. The reason why that letter is to the power of 1, it means when you solve all of that, you will end up having that letter is equals to whatever. Let's say you transpose, it becomes 8, you divide by 2, it's 4. So that means P is equals to 4. It ends there. That's how you solve. Okay, so now let's try something different. What if you are having 2x squared minus x? Let's say this is equals to negative 7. Here comes a question. Is this an equation? Is it an expression? Is it an inequality? Is it an exponent? I see an equal sign, meaning it's an equation. That means it's not an expression, it's not an inequality. Let's have a look there. Can you see? It is the number which is in the position of the power, meaning it is not an exponent. Okay, so now that I know this is an equation, is it a linear or is it a quadratic equation? It cannot be a linear because the letter, it is not to the power of 1. Even though this one is to the power of 1, but as long as there's another same letter or a different letter to the power of 2, it is a quadratic. So that means if a letter, which could be any letter from A up to Z, it is to the power of 2, that is a quadratic. Pause. What does it mean if it's a quadratic? It means you will end up having 2 answers. That power of 2, it reminds you to have 2 answers. That is why in the end, you will end up having x which is equal to something, and then you say, or another x is equals to something. Can you see? You end up having two answers. Why two answers? Because of the power of 2. Power of 2 being a quadratic. So it is easier to solve a linear, but a bit of a process to solve a quadratic equation, because when you are dealing with a quadratic equation, there are steps that you need to follow. So you need to rewrite this in the standard form. I'm sure you remember this standard form. You need to rewrite it in the standard form, and then you factorize. After factorizing, then you get to your final answers. I'm pretty much sure that you have an idea of what we mean by a linear and a quadratic. So this is what I've explained. Again, you have a linear inequality or a quadratic inequality, just like you have a linear equation and a quadratic equation. So what is a linear equation? A linear inequality or a quadratic inequality. They just change this equal sign and maybe put that. Same explanation. Because of the power of 2, it's a quadratic. Because of that sign, it's an inequality. That means this is a quadratic inequality. If you have 2x maybe less than -4, because of that, it is an inequality. Then you look at the terms itself. Invisible one, then it's a linear. So that is why you will hear from time to time your teacher say a linear equation, a quadratic inequality, or a quadratic equation, and linear inequality. I hope you guys did understand all of that. So as I go or as I get closer to the end of our lesson for today, did you guys understand what I've just explained there? Did I not confuse you guys before we just browsed through those questions that I sent in the group? Were you guys following with what I was explaining there?
Yes, I was following. Sir.
We understand.
Last one to confirm.
Sir.
Okay. Okay. What am I going to do now? I think let me remove that. I will need you guys to confirm if you are able to see. No, I'm not sure of how to work out this one because I know sometimes it might be blurry. Maybe let me go. No, not there, but under combo, we are looking at paper 1. So for X, it's what we're looking at in today's lesson. This is what I sent in the group. Is it clear or is it blurry? Maybe let me try to switch off my light there. No, I think it's blurry now. Okay, let's try again. Guys, can you see there or is it blurry? Can you guys see?
Yes, we can see.
Nomsa says she's able to see. Okay, if that is the case, let me now quickly explain what is going on over there. So this is one of the previous exam question papers. If you want to know where I got that, it's there in the group. Maybe let me explain that. So this is question 1 where they say solve for x. In today's lesson, I'm not going to be solving those, but either tomorrow or on the next lesson, I will be solving those using all that I've explained in today's lesson. So here comes the question. Maybe let me give someone an opportunity to give it a try, and you will notice that these things are not difficult. Guys, you tell me, is this an equation, expression, inequality, or exponent? What type of a problem is that?
Equation.
Why are you saying it's an equation? How do you know?
There is a sign of equals there.
100%.
It
Okay,
has
so
an
now that you know
equal
it's
sign.
an equation, what type of an equation is it? Is it a quadratic or is it a linear equation?
It is a quadratic equation.
How do you know? Waze kanjani Larissa?
Because there's an exponent of 2.
100%. Exactly that. So, can you guys see what we have just done in today's lesson? It is just to learn how to interpret maths problems. That's it. Okay. 1.1.2. What is that?
Still, equation.
Okay. What type of an equation is that?
What's that?
It's a quadratic equation.
100% a quadratic equation because we have a power of 2. So on our upcoming lessons, I'm going to be teaching you how you solve this type of okay. So 1.1.3, what is that?
It's an inequality.
Hey, utshela ubani ukuthi lento le is an inequality? Waze kanjani?
The sign.
Guys, can you guys see how easy it is to interpret maths? Okay, so what type of an inequality is that? Is it a
It is
linear or a quadratic?
an
It's a
inequality.
It's a linear inequality.
A linear inequality. Okay, so for now, let me not go deep into that, but I will explain to you how you notice what type of an inequality it is. But what I can say for now is that the moment it has the brackets like that, just say not yet sure. For you to be 100% sure, you need to first remove the brackets. That's when you will realize that when you say that by that
Because
is 2x,
it
that by
has
that
an
a negative 8,
inequality
that by
sign.
that is x squared, and that by that is negative 4x. So can you see those two? They already give you a base of x and a power of 2, meaning this is then going to be a quadratic inequality. So don't worry that much about that. That is why I'm saying for now, if it has brackets, just say you are not yet sure if it's a linear or a quadratic. But for you to know, you will need to remove the brackets. Okay, so 1.1.4. What is that, Bantu Bakiti? What is that?
It's an equation.
Okay, waze kanjani ukuthi is an equation?
There is an
Because of
equal
equal
sign.
sign.
Okay, listen very carefully. What do you do when you have an equation? Make sure you answer my question. What do you do when you have an equation? I
You
wonder.
solve.
Hey,
We solve.
that means you guys were listening. Hmm?
Yeah,
I,
we are
th-
serious.
I thought you guys were watching Uzalo there and
You solve
Skeem
for
Sam
X.
and Gomorrah. Kwakuhle ukuzwa ukuthi you were listening, and I see someone is already craving to solve for X. But before we do that, you tell me, since you said this is an equation, what type of an equation is that? 1.1.4. What type of an equation is that? I wonder if you'll get this one right. So that's how examiner tries to dribble you. Can you guys see that if you do not know the type of a math problem is that, you won't easily
It's
be
a
able
quadratic
to work
equation.
it out. Okay, someone saying how do you know that it's a
A linear
quadratic
equation.
equation?
I think it's a
Someone is
linear
saying
equation.
linear. How do you know? Uh,
It's a linear equation.
waze kanjani?
Okay, sorry.
I also think it's a linear equation.
It's a linear.
Another one
It's a
thinks it's a
quadratic
linear
equation.
equation.
The
Quadratic.
half.
A linear equation.
Hey,
I think it's a linear because the half means it's -1.
Someone is saying half, it means a -1. Okay,
I
maybe.
think it's a linear equation because when we solve for X, we get 1.
Okay, let me do
I think it's
this.
linear because it's less than 1.
Someone linear because it's less than. Okay. I will write it down and say we are having that. Okay. This is what I would say. I would say this is an equation. Why? Because I see an equal sign first thing first. Is it a linear or is it a quadratic? It's none of those. Why? Because if it is a linear, we must be having all the letters to the power of invisible 1. So that is why I'm saying any letter from A up to Z, they must be to the power of invisible 1. So can you see, it's only that one, but there is this letter also which is to the power of half. Also, it cannot be a quadratic. Why? Because we have a power of half, whereas we know very well that if it's a quadratic, it is to the power of 2. But now, when you solve that, you can convert it into a quadratic. I'm not sure if I'll be right in saying you can quadratic quadratic ties. Hey, I can quadratic ties this thing. Never say that in class. Everyone is going to laugh. We only say it in our private lessons. We can quadratic ties this thing. How do you quadratic? Hey, how do you quadratic ties this thing? This is what I would do. I can multiply all the exponents by power of 2. Remember, here the exponent is invisible 1. So it's more like it's 1 times 2, then it's 4 squared. This one also, you multiply it by 2. Remember, you multiply every term by 2. So you might need to be careful there to multiply that by 2. So don't worry that much about the process of solving this. We will still do all of those questions. So all the questions in that compilation, by the end of this month or mid-month, you will fully understand all those questions. So why would I multiply everything by 2? So that becomes x squared because there's an invisible 1 there. It's more like it's 1 times 2, which is just 2. minus, there you have 2, it multiplies that. Let's say it also multiplies that. So it's more like is 3 squared, which is what? It is 9. You have x to the power half times 2. What is a half of 2? Half of 2, is it not 1? It's 1. So that is why you have x to the power of invisible 1, which is equals to, what is 4 squared? Is it not 16? That is 16. So can you guys see that I've actually quadratized that equation? It's more like I've converted it from whatever that it was into something that is solvable, or into something that I can easily solve. So I will leave it there and not continue, because I will still need to teach you how to solve quadratic type of problems. I'm not sure if everyone understood what I've done over there. Are you guys sure that you fully understand what I've done over there? Larissa, are you sure you saw what I did there? It's not miracles, nay.
Yes, I
Nomsa,
understand.
uyizwile kahle lento le? Uyibonile ukuthi siyenza kanjani?
Ngibonile.
Alikho,
Yes.
sisase sonke lapho.
Yes, sir.
Bokang, Happiness, Zoleka, Hamisa,
Yes, sir.
Katleho,
Yeah, we
Pindi,
understand.
Kuli, Zaza, Tabi, Lee GP, Busisiwe, Ayanda. Hey, Mzozozo,
Yes,
kuhamba
dear.
njani la? Mzozozo,
Ngiyalunga.
uyidlile kanjani lokhuzana?
Ukhisimsi noNew Year ngizidle kahle se noma thatha.
Noma tata Mzo. Hey, Mzozozo, I'm glad you are back. Let's see, we have Bulelwa, Luvuyo, Lebu, Tsepo, Manda, Sondi, Nogutula. Guys, a very warm welcome to my 2023. Guys, I was saying I encourage all of you guys not to miss my upcoming lessons, because there's a lot to be learned. So I'm not a teacher by profession. I studied civil engineering at UJ. I'm just good in mathematics. So good people, I'm good because I taught mathematics by myself. So how did I make it? I made sure that I made all the mistakes than everyone else in my school. So whatever mistake that you guys will be doing, I already know about that mistake. That is why I will be able to easily explain to you how to solve whatever the problem that you'll be struggling with. So just make sure that you do allow me to do a presentation, and then from there, in the end, you will realize that mathematics, it is not that much complicated. Okay, so maybe let me have a look at that, and just one more question, but I won't be asking you guys. I'll just be talking to myself. What you can do is just to listen very carefully, just to save time. So let me do this as I conclude our lesson for today. Okay, on the same question, this is what we're given. Solve for x and y. What is that? This is an equation because I see an equal sign. What type of an equation is that? It's either it's a linear or quadratic. So because I see letter x to the power of 1, letter y to the power of 1, that means it is a linear equation. But when it comes to this one, because I have letter to the power of 2, also that 1 to the power of 2, it means it is a quadratic. Is it a quadratic inequality or a quadratic equation? Because of that, it makes it a quadratic equation. So now there's nothing different Bantubakiti. What you do is just to solve these two letters simultaneously. You solve those at the same time. And then you have this type of questions of which we will only focus on those once you fully understand how to deal with this type of problems. Because in mathematics, it's all about solving. So it's very, very much important that we teach you how to solve. Once you know that, when it comes to functions, what is it? Financial maths, number pattern, sequence, and series, you won't struggle because you know how to solve. It's just a matter of you understanding the question. Okay, maybe let me focus on this one very quickly. Okay, what is that? This is an equation because I see an equal sign. Okay, is it a linear or a quadratic? Remember, because there are brackets, for now, I'm not sure. For me to be sure, I need to remove those brackets. After removing the brackets, I'll be able to know if this is a linear or a quadratic. Okay, on to the next one. Is this a quadratic or a linear? Because of the power of 2, quadratic. Because of equal sign, a quadratic equation. On our next lesson, you will understand what is meant by that and what it should mean to you. Here, we are dealing with sums. I will also explain to you how you deal with square roots, which is a lesson that I'm going to combine with the one for the laws of exponents. So this one also, after you remove that square root, you will know if this is a linear or a quadratic equation only after you remove that square root. Then once you have either quadraticized or linearized that, you will easily know how to work it out. Okay, wat gaan aan hierso? This is an inequality because of that sign. But now, already I can see I'm having power of that. So even though it has brackets, but already because of that, it makes it a quadratic, meaning this is a quadratic inequality. Okay, now 1.2. Wat gaan aan hierso? Solve for x and y similarity. Kusho ukuthi angazi ukuthi esikhathi sohodwa or kanjani, but in Pedi we say similarity meaning at the same time. That's what it basically means, simultaneous. So you need to solve for x and y simultaneously. So can you see, you have that first equation because of equal sign, you have the second equation because of equal sign. Letter to the power of 1, letter to the power of 1, this is a linear equation. That is a quadratic equation. So here you have a combination of linear and quadratic. I'm still going to teach you guys on how to work out those. Then this type of questions are those that I will take you through once you fully understand how to solve. So can you guys see that already almost 100% for question 1? And most of what you'll be doing when you open, you'll be focusing on question 1 type of questions. I'm telling you guys, once you know and fully understand question 1, it's going to be easy to work out this type of question. Maybe let me conclude my lesson with that one. Here comes the question. What is that? Is that an equation, an expression, an inequality, or an exponent? Okay, let me see. But I don't see an equal sign there. I don't see an equals, meaning this is not an equation. And because I don't see an equal sign, it means it's an expression. Meaning you simplify. That is why they say simplify fully. So you need to rewrite that in its simplest form. So can you see letter M is in the power of the exponent, meaning you need to use the laws of exponents. Bantu Bakit, are you sure you are still listening that side?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
guys, that's all that I wanted you guys to be aware of as far as today's lesson is concerned. So, good people, I think it's worth it to mention that when I was doing a matric in March, I was already done with grade 12 because after finishing my grade 10 and 11 exams, I never stopped studying. Even during Christmas Day, all those holidays, I was busy preparing for my matric. So when I got to grade 12, around March, I was already done. I was just going to school to teach other learners and neighboring schools so that I don't forget these things. So that's how it was easy for me to get distinctions in maths and other subjects, which is the reason why I'm encouraging you guys to start early so that you don't forget these things. And most importantly, you don't fall behind. I'm telling you, the day you guys open at school, you will fully understand your teachers. The problem might be that you guys, as we move along, you tend to understand my teaching style much better. Do not compare my teaching style together with that of your teacher or your personal assistants. Just make sure that you try to fully understand whoever will be teaching you, because we also have other teachers or tutors who will be giving you extra lessons. So it is very much important that you fully understand what I explain so that you'll be able to understand everyone who will be explaining in any different way. So, guys, before I conclude our lesson for today, can you guys confirm if all that was clear in today's lesson?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, guys, I do thank you very much for joining. My name is Desmond, and I'm out.